Salute, brought to you by Operation Barnabas. I am your host, Shawn Welsh, and I'm here today with Brad Burgess from the Mindshare Manager.
Yes,
How are you
sir.
doing today, Brad?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm glad you can make it out here. So tell us a little bit about your military service.
So I was in the Army. I was a construction surveyor.
Nice.
For those that pay attention, it was a 82 Bravo, which I understand does not exist anymore. But construction surveyor, airborne qualified. So I spent mostly 3 years at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, and our mission was to build short-life airstrips out of the natural materials that you might find in the theater.
Okay.
So, but that was a great foundation for me, and it kind of was a springboard into my later career, which is in sales and land surveying.
Okay. So you now have the Mindshare Manager.
Correct.
But there's a bit of space there between your Army service and starting that, correct?
Correct.
All right, so give us a short synopsis, I guess, of how you got to Mindshare
Sure.
Manager.
So after the Army, despite their best efforts to keep me in for another term, I decided to get back into the civilian world. So came back to the Chicago area, where I'm originally from, and went to work for a land surveying company, and found out that a lot of the things that I was doing in the Army were antiquated and definitely old school, including the instrumentation and technology. But it was a good, again, foundation. It was a good next step. So I was able to leverage my training in the military, which, by the way, was quite good,
Right.
actually, in terms of the surveying component. But spent a couple years working under some great guys. The company I worked for had records in the back room that went back to the Chicago fire.
Oh, wow.
So it was really cool to be able to look at those old notes and go into a neighborhood, peel back the layers of aluminum siding and other crap that people had put on their homes. But you could find the original line ties. And
wow.
so it was really cool from that perspective. But kind of long story short, I applied to take the first part of my land surveying certification test for the state of Illinois, and it got rejected because my time in the Army was not under the direct supervision of a licensed land surveyor.
Okay.
So I thought to myself, well, okay, so that's going to be about another 2 years before I get the right amount of time, before I could resit or reapply for this exam. And so I had always liked the technology that we were
Right.
using, instrumentation and so forth. So that's what really propelled me into sales,
Okay.
which then took me for 30 plus years. So went to work, for Nikon Instruments, which then led me to something else, and now here I am, kind of at the back end of my career,
Right.
and trying to kind of pay it forward. A lot of the companies I worked with were small family-owned distribution
Okay.
companies that sold the instruments and so forth, and so I kind of grew an affinity for those environments. And so in my consulting work, the Mindshare Manager, I tend to work with small companies that are startups generally,
Right. Right.
and help them kind of get through the growing pains of
Okay.
Establishing their business and so forth. So I guess I'll leave it at that. But
That's fantastic, though, taking all that knowledge you had, all those years of experience, and then turning it to where you can give back and, help consult and get these other companies off the ground.
For me, I was fortunate that I was a little bit older when I entered the service.
Right.
So I had some college, I had some practical experience in drafting.
Okay.
And that type of thing. And so when I signed up for the military, I had a certain occupation field in mind.
Okay.
I understand not everybody might have that
Right.
vision, if you will. But what I try to do is look for the common threads that move through in industry, something like that. So although my initial thought about becoming a surveyor was kind of vanquished, if you will, I was able to stay in touch with that industry by moving into sales and getting more involved in the technology side
Right.
of the business. So that worked for me, and I would recommend that to anybody
That's great.
that's transitioning from the military.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because you essentially were able to take a situation that didn't work out the way you wanted to. You're able to pivot, you were resilient about. You found a new way to apply stuff that you learned and you enjoyed, and sort of stay in the same field. Which I think is a huge lesson for our transitioning service members about how sometimes you got to look for those pivots that you can make.
Right. And by it doesn't have to be a direct correlation to what you were doing in the service, but if you can find a thread that ties you to that, it makes for a very nice progression. And then when you're, a lot of times you can't plan what your future is going to hold, but you can make strong ties to it, and therefore you've got a very logical story as you go forward. And it helps you empathize, which is, I think, one of the most important things of being a good salesperson, with the other person that you're working with.
Absolutely. Great point. Well, we've come down to the end. I want to thank you, Brad, for coming on.
Sure.
Love your story and how you were able to pivot and be resilient. And I think that's a huge message for our community on being able to do that, and especially being able to find new avenues in the same type of field, which is just great. I wish you the best with your consulting business. And I know you're helping these people get off the ground. It's going to be great things happening.
Well, that's what I enjoy. So
that is awesome.
It's not work.
Love it, and I love the fact that you're giving back to the community. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to 5 Minute Salute. I'm Shawn Welsh. I'm here with Brad Burgess from the Mindshare Manager. Please tune in next time.
My name is Helena Pugh. I am the founder of Zahara Veterans Network. So I started Zahara Veterans Network because as I transitioned out of the military in 2012, I was encountering so many challenges with my transition, and I realized that there really wasn't an organization that spoke definitively to the issues that impacted women veterans, but also I encountered other male veterans who were having very similar issues to which there really wasn't an answer. So I started the organization so that I can provide information for other veterans, but also put us on the path to start providing those services that weren't being offered.